After nearly 8 years of drug addiction, Michael DeLeon spent 12 years in prison and halfway houses for a gang-related homicide. Since his time in prison, he's dedicated his life to making the world a better place. He is the founder of Steered Straight, which guides young people away from the dangers of drugs and criminal activity. As a motivational speaker, he has spent thousands of hours talking to millions of young adults, and he has worked tirelessly to help people suffering find the road to recovery.
The Road to Recovery is brought to you by Lake Haven Recovery. The journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. Welcome to The Road to Recovery. My name is Michael DeLeon, and I'm your host. And today I have a very special guest, someone that's very close to me, and I wanted to bring her on to give her perspective, to kind of talk a little bit more about how the choices and decisions of her husband affected her family, and affected her life. This is my wife, Darla DeLeon.
Hello.
Thanks for coming on, Darla.
Thank you.
This is very unique, very special. We've been advocates together, leading other people to their road to recovery, fighting addiction, fighting this epidemic in our country, especially in New Jersey. And we've worked together. We still work together, fighting this epidemic. But today, I wanted to kind of talk more about, from a personal perspective, how the choices and the decisions that I made in my life affected you and affected our family. I suffered from addiction. My introduction into drugs began in North Carolina, very naively thinking it wouldn't happen to me and change me. And my addiction led to a full-blown problem with drugs and alcohol when I relocated back to New Jersey. We were married and she came with me, and here we are back in New Jersey, and the addiction never stopped. You know, geographical relocation is something that a lot of people do to solve a problem with addiction. But when you relocate and you bring you with you, you bring the problem with you as well. And I became a full-blown drug addict in New Jersey. My drug addiction led to criminal involvement. My criminal involvement led to gang activity. And gang activity is where you drew the line.
Exactly.
And you took our kids and left and went back to North Carolina. And my gang involvement led to my prison experience, if you will. And I spent 12 years in state prisons in New Jersey, and you were married to an inmate.
Right.
And then coming home from prison after serving 12 years, making a difference, becoming an advocate, starting a nonprofit organization to talk to kids about making better choices than the ones I made. I guess that's the briefest, most succinct, most wrapped up version I could ever give.
Right.
But it's not about me in today's show. It's really about you and how my choices and decisions affected you.
Right. I don't think people really understand how that dynamic affects the family life. It affects every aspect of it, financially, emotionally, in every way, shape, or form. If you have children, it truly affects the children more than it does anyone else. In our situation, you know, would always say, I'm in prison. You know, you don't understand, I'm in prison. But to me, I was just in a bigger prison. You know, my prison just had no bars. You know, we couldn't do things together. We couldn't go to birthday parties together. We couldn't do anything together because you're not with me physically. You know, our dynamic at home was such that, you know, I was the mother and the father to our children, which was not fair to them. You know, in a lot of ways, you know, you weren't there for their baseball games or their musicals and dances and stuff like that. So it was very difficult. And a lot of people don't realize how that changes the whole family dynamic, and it changes how your children feel about the person who's incarcerated. You know, and especially when they come home, you know, I was with my children for 12 years without you. And you know, then all of a sudden you come home and you want to change everything, and my kids are saying, wait, you know, I've been with her for this long time and you haven't. Who are you to come in and say that you're boss? basically. A lot of women feel that way. A lot of people feel that way when their family member comes home. They don't know how to fit in, how they fit into their dynamic anymore. So they really have to start all over again.
Let's go back to the beginning, the drug use, the criminal activity, the things involved, the things that a drug addict has to do to support their habit. And criminal activity gets a part of the problem. Gang involvement, for me, became part of the problem.
Right. How
did that affect you? What kind of effect do families feel, do women feel from a spouse, significant other, husband, father, with addiction in the family?
You feel helpless to help them. You can't help them. It's hard because you love someone so much, and then the drug seems to want to take them away from you so far away that you don't have that kind of a relationship anymore. So it creates a void in in me, and then it also created a void in our children's lives. So it's very difficult. It's just difficult.
Those problems, the things that happen, the changes that are made, some changes, forced upon you, do they go away?
No, I don't think they ever go away. There's still, to this day, there's still things that I have to step back and look at and say, how should I do this now? Because it's changed from what it would have been to what it is now. It's different. It's harder. Our relationship is harder because of different aspects of things that happen in our life together, things that you did that affected me, that still affect me today, and affect our kids today.
So as addiction develops and criminal activity obviously becomes a part of it, I ended up becoming incarcerated. So I became incarcerated, and what was that like for you? What is it like for a woman to lose a significant other or spouse to incarceration?
You can attribute it almost to a death, because they're there 1 minute and they're gone the next. You can't really reach out to them. With you, especially for a long time, we didn't have really any communication. It's like a death. You grieve that. It was a grieving process because you're there 1 minute and you're gone. There's a void. Again, you come back to the void. If it wasn't for my faith, I don't know how I would have handled that.
And so that got you through. And so
Absolutely.
You mentioned earlier, you're a mother and father to 2 kids. And what happens, the people that you met and associated with, some of those family members lost both mother and father, and kids are living with aunts or grandparents and what have you. I mean, how does that void affect the children?
It affects them greatly, because as a child, you need, we were built to have a mother and a father who nourish us and give us direction. And, if they've lost their mother and their father, they have no structure. A lot of kids today do live with their grandparent, but a grandparent is not a mother or a father to their children. A grandparent has already raised their children. And to have a child have to go into that kind of an atmosphere where they don't have someone who goes out to their baseball games or who is able to support them in their school activities, gives them a sense of not being, how do I say it, of not having someone who really cares about them. So it's difficult that way. It's harder. It's harder for the child.
So in this country, we have over 3 million children of incarcerated parents. Some children have 1 parent incarcerated. Some people have 2. Some kids have 2 parents incarcerated. That affects the child long term.
It does.
And now as an advocate, not to jump too far ahead, but as an advocate, you see this every day.
Absolutely.
And what kind of effects do children get by having the parent incarcerated?
They have insecurity. They have low self-esteem, low self-worth. They feel like they don't belong, and they seem to be now seeking justification or validation from someone, whether they get it from a gang involvement, whether they get it from being a bully at school, whether they get it from somewhere else, they're seeking it.
Or how about seeking it through substance abuse or underage drinking?
Absolutely. They're seeking it through some avenue, whether it's drugs, whether it's gangs, whether it's peers at school, whether it's someone at church. You know, it's someone, they're seeking something from someone or something, whether that's drugs and alcohol, whether it's opiates, whether it's something, they're seeking it.
So, you know, addiction, substance abuse leads in many cases to incarceration, but incarceration doesn't just affect the person incarcerated. That affects everyone around them, especially the family, and we'll be back to talk more about that right after this commercial break. Welcome back to the Road to Recovery. And I'm here as, you know, with a very special guest. I say that all the time, but today my guest is obviously more special than most. This is my wife, Darla, and we're here talking about how my life, my choices, my drug use, my incarceration affected her and our family, and how those effects still last today. And Darla, the choices and decisions that I made in my life obviously didn't just affect me, affected you, affected our kids, affected our family, and those effects still linger today.
They do, absolutely. They affect every aspect of our relationship with you and me, but also with our children.
Now, the path that I took to my recovery was a path I wouldn't recommend to people. We have now become advocates, and now we work together in recovery navigation. And recovery navigation, tell us a little bit about that and why you're doing what you're doing.
Recovery navigation, it helps people find treatment through different avenues. So many times people come to us and say, I don't know where to begin. I don't know how to start to find treatment for myself, for my loved one. I don't know what to do. And that is where we're filling the gap. We're filling the gap for people to help direct them, to navigate them, to find treatment that is perfect for them, or as near perfect to what their needs are, where they are in their walk, to help them find the best care that they can get to get sober and to stay sober.
And for people who aren't aware of how bad the problem is, how do you enlighten people and make them aware that this public social health crisis that we find ourselves in the middle of in this country is the worst that we've ever seen? This epidemic
it affects every home, every family, every school, every church, every community is affected by what we're seeing today. It is epidemic in proportion because as people are they start experimenting with marijuana and alcohol. You know, a lot of times as a child they get injured at school and they get, you know, a rotator cuff and they get 90 OxyContins prescribed for them. They don't need 90 OxyContins, but then they're not regulated, or they're not administering it right, and so they start to abuse it, or they take it to school and they sell it to other people at school, which really creates a whirlwind of different epidemics in our society.
And so recovery navigation is a clearinghouse, is a resource, is an initial stop on the road to recovery. And the road to recovery is possible people do and can recover. Why did you decide to do this?
It is a passion for me to be able to try to help people find recovery and find help, because I'm also in recovery, and for me to help someone help themselves recover is very rewarding, you know, but it's desperately needed today because it's something that people don't know how to do, and they don't know what to do. They don't know when to do it. And so that's why I try to do that along with you, because our kids need help. They need navigation. They need help. They need information. They need education about what's coming.
Do you get calls often?
Every day, all day long. It's 24/7. They call me crying. I had a kid call me yesterday who overdosed yesterday morning and called me and begging me to help him find treatment.
Is treatment easy to find in New Jersey?
Absolutely not. If you don't have health insurance, whether you, maybe you have Medicaid, it is so hard to find even a detox in the state of New Jersey because they're all filled. There's not enough places for people to find detox. But in that, you know, there are places that do offer detox for people who have Medicaid or who do not have options for treatment. But it's hard to get them into a bed because there are none. They have to wait. I called a place the other day who they're booking people in mid-August is their first available date for a bed for a detox.
And that's a month away.
A month away. It's unacceptable. It's truly unacceptable. These people, when they reach out to me, they need treatment now. They can't wait 2 weeks. 2 weeks may be too late.
So navigation through recovery is important. They don't know what to do, where to turn, what to seek, but they didn't think they'd find themselves in this situation in the first place.
Absolutely not. You know, no one starts out, I want to be a heroin addict. No one starts out, I want to be a crack addict. No one starts out that way. Everyone, you know, we always have goals and dreams in our life. Whatever avenue or whatever environment you grow up in, everybody has a goal. You don't start out saying, I want to be a heroin addict. I asked this young man yesterday how he started out. This young man was very intelligent, was very affluent, grew up in an affluent home, had every resource available, and yet he overdosed yesterday on heroin.
Is that what you're seeing, your demographics, most of the people who are calling you? Are they suburban? Are they rural? Are they, you know, affluent, middle class, upper middle class families?
Absolutely. You know, they come from, just like you. You had every opportunity. And just like you, they don't get that environment that they need at home. A mother and a father who love them, who give them nourishment, you know, emotional education, support, and love. That's what is leading to all of these issues that we have.
And what are you hearing from family members who are calling you?
They're absolutely helpless. They're absolutely helpless. They don't know what to do. They don't know how. They don't know where to even begin. I was doing an intervention with a couple last week. Their son is 32 years old, and they have no clue where to start. No clue.
The CDC reports that this is an epidemic. It's worse than it's ever been. The numbers are higher than they've ever been. And here we are in New Jersey, where we're 3 times the national average. We're growing, increasing 3 times the national average in New Jersey and the Philadelphia, Pennsylvania market than anywhere else in the country.
Right.
And you're seeing that as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. Every dynamic, from Park Avenue to Park Bench, it's everywhere. It's everywhere.
So addiction, drugs don't have a demographic. They don't discriminate.
Not at all.
And people are aware, do you think? Do you think the public is as aware as they need to be?
No, not at all. You know, we hold parental awareness conferences. We hold community events. Sometimes you have 20 people. Sometimes you have 500. You know, if there's an area where they've had a couple overdose deaths within a couple of weeks of our community event, we have a lot of people. But a lot of people are just putting their head in the sand and thinking that it's not going to happen to their kid. It's not my kid. It's not going to happen. I give them everything. But maybe you're not giving them what they need. You might be giving them everything, but you're not giving them what they need.
But this really isn't a parent's fault.
No.
This isn't.
It's everyone's responsibility. It's not a parent's issue. It's not a community issue. It's not the police force issue. It's everyone's issue. We have to do this together.
And so the reason why you're so passionate about this and why you want to help, this has become your life purpose, really.
Absolutely. It's needed because I feel so strongly that in my family, if I wasn't there for my children as a mother and a father when you weren't there, you know, my kids might be one of those statistics today. And I can't have that.
And so we're going to come back after this commercial break with a little bit about what you can do and how important it is for you to take action right after this commercial break. The Road to Recovery is brought to you by Lake Haven Recovery. The journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. Welcome back to The Road to Recovery. And again, I'm here with Darla DeLeon, happens to be my wife, happens to be the person that suffered the most by the choices and the decisions that I made. The reason why I'm so passionate, why the Road to Recovery television show is so important to me, why my voice, my advocacy is my life, my passion has met my purpose. This is why I want to help prevent people from ending up making the choices and the decisions that I made. Not only that it affects themselves, but how it affects their family. And my wife and my children and our family was greatly affected, devastated in many cases and many areas because of the choices and the decisions that I made. And this has become our passion. We actually run an organization called Recovery Navigation.
Yes.
And 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, we take calls from people all around the country, what to do. People that are deer in headlights, they don't know what to do. Their child, their 32-year-old child, their 28-year-old child, their 17-year-old child, their 14-year-old child is now suffering from addiction and they don't know what to do. And so we guide them through the process, help them find a resource.
Right.
And are we busy?
To say we're busy is an understatement. It's an understatement. There are so many people who are reaching out, who can't find help, who need help. And that's what we're here for.
And don't know the steps, don't know what to do.
Correct. It's difficult trying to navigate through where to go, what to do, when to do it, how to get there. You know, it's difficult, and it shouldn't be difficult. You know, finding drugs on the street is not difficult, but finding treatment is. You know, why is it so hard to find treatment?
Why is it so hard to find treatment? And it's pretty easy to find drugs.
Right.
So our kids have access to drugs. They know where to get it. Over-the-counter drugs are abused. Prescription medication is abused epidemic in this country. And you find people help.
Yes, absolutely. With Recovery Navigation, they can call our helpline, which is 877-633-7285. And we will give them the tools that they need. They'll ask them a couple of questions, and we'll guide them to where they need to be.
And if they have insurance, treatment is easier to find. If they don't have insurance, we still find them treatment.
Absolutely, absolutely. You know, where would I be if people didn't help me when you were away?
So sometimes in the treatment field, in the treatment industry, people with insurance can get the help that they need, but people without insurance,
it's almost non-existent. First of all, you know, if someone is looking for treatment and they don't have insurance, even Medicaid, even to go into one of the Christian-based programs that we support, they have to go through a detox program because those facilities don't have the capabilities to detox them. And that, again, is going through hoops to try to get someone treatment. Hoops.
And so at Recovery Navigation, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, you can contact us. Doesn't matter if it's a holiday or what have you. You contact us at Recovery Navigation, and we will help them find not only treatment and detox, but the road to recovery.
Absolutely. That's what we want, the road to recovery.
Because people do recover. This is an epidemic. Do you see it getting worse, getting better? It's
not going to get any better with the prescription drug monitoring program. When that becomes in place across the country, it's going to get a lot worse. We need that type of a program. It's just going to make it a lot more easily accessible for someone to go get heroin instead of paying $50 a pill on the street to get a prescription.
So your passion and your purpose in life was grounded in tragedy. Your passion and purpose in life was grounded in your husband's incarceration and our both drug use for both of us. Our addiction led to serious consequences for both of us. And in recovery, we're able to help other people travel the road that we're traveling.
Sure.
So our road to recovery is no longer population 2. Our road to recovery's got a greater population.
Absolutely.
And so we need more people on this road. I think more people need to travel the road to recovery. We're losing people. Together and by myself, we've been to 90 memorial services. Our 90th just the other day, a 32-year-old boy from National Park, New Jersey, who was very close to us. It was very difficult, and I'm tired of burying kids. I'm tired of burying people. I'm tired of burying men and women. I'm tired of seeing people lose their lives, lose their livelihood, their families affected. This is an American epidemic, and it's going to take America to navigate through this problem. So your road to recovery, your loved one's road to recovery is possible. It is a path worth taking. I wish kids never got involved in drugs in the first place. But when addiction enters your family, it enters your community. The road to recovery is the only path that you need to focus on. Call Recovery Navigation if you or someone you know need help. And that road to recovery is possible.